speak now to someone who knows a lot about sanctions. Daniel Fried was the coordinator for sanctions policy during President Barack Obama's administration, and he helped to craft the sanctions against Russia in 2014. Welcome back to BBC News, Daniel Fried.
Thank you. I wish it were under better circumstances.
Well, yes, I think everyone in Ukraine would say that, and beyond the borders of Ukraine as well. Since we last spoke, there was what's being described as the first tranche of sanctions that obviously didn't stop President Putin from Russian forces from advancing in three directions on Ukraine. Now there's talk of a barrage of new sanctions. What could be imposed now which would make a difference, do you believe?
The sanctions imposed the day before yesterday were just a taste of what's coming. President Biden will announce new sanctions in a couple of hours. I suspect they will include heavy sanctions on major Russian state banks. I also suspect they will include a new major export control, blocking semiconductors from anywhere in the world using American technology or licenses to Russia. That's a big deal. They will hit the Russian economy hard. My friend and colleague, Ambassador John Herbst, who you just had on, pointed out that one of the purposes of sanctions is not just to change Putin's mind, but also to weaken the Russian economy, diminishing the resources that Putin has to commit aggression. I think these sanctions will be tough, but we have to mean it. We have to keep it up for a long time.
It's often said in these dramatic times that President Putin seems to have calculated that his reserves are in a better position than they were in 2014, that gas prices, oil prices are high, that the Russian economy is stronger than it was 8 years ago. Can he withstand these sanctions, which of course will be imposed not just by the United States, but by Europe as well, for at least a long window of time?
The trouble with sanctions is that even when they work, they can take more time to work than you wish they would, or than what you suggested in your memo to the president or the secretary. Sanctions are not a magic bullet. They're not a magic wand. They're an instrument of pressure which can do damage to the economy of an adversary. But they can't substitute for all other steps. They're not a magic bullet. They are one tool. So I think it is critical at this point that we hit the Russian economy hard, we being the US, UK, and Europe, but also that we sustain this. We can't go back to a reset with Russia. We have to draw long-term conclusions about Putin's aggression. The man is a tyrant, on the model of the 20th century tyrants. We need to treat him accordingly. We are not going to have a stable and predictable relationship with Russia. The Biden administration didn't want to have to deal with China and Russia at the same time, but in foreign policy, it often doesn't matter what you want. We have to deal with the authoritarians as they are, and we have to take the Putin challenge seriously for the longer term. If we want a better relationship with a better Russia, we have to deal with the bad and aggressive Russia we have right now. That requires pressure.
But yet we've heard from you and other financial experts that it's very difficult to impose sanctions which would really hurt President Putin himself, who seems to be the man really calling the shots literally in this crisis.
Well, look, there's been talk of going after the finances of Vladimir Putin and his circle of cronies. And it is true, there is no reason on God's green earth that we should allow Putin to attack the Western system while he's parking the money he steals from his own people in that system. We ought to go after him, we ought to go after his funds, and we ought to expose it. Because Putin didn't become a multi-billionaire by saving his government's salary. He did it through massive theft, but he doesn't have bank accounts in his own name. He works through cutouts, through intermediaries, through bagmen. And his elite does this, and we're all at fault. London real estate, New York real estate, Miami real estate, We all need to clean up our act and go after dirty Russian money, and we need to mean it.
Daniel Fried, a sanctions expert, thank you very much for joining us with your assessment at this really critical hour where all the world is looking at what the impact of sanctions would be.